Good evening, everybody. This is meteorologist Andrew Pinero with this next weekend outlook forecast. Oh, next, but I haven't done one of these in a while, but we got some weather to talk about. So let's really get straight to that. Let me bring all of this up right now. And the first thing we're really going to take a look at here, watches, warnings, and advisories. So throughout the kind of New York City tri-state region, there's not much out there yet. We'll see if anything changes. There is a coastal flood statement for Nassau and Suffolk County and Long Island there. There is a hazardous weather outlook that we'll take a look at for a lot of this area. And then here, we have a winter weather advisory and we have a winter storm watch. Now, if we go a little bit more north, and this is going to be going more into New England, there's the winter storm warning. And we'll talk a little bit about that once we get to the forecast models. But it's really looking like we are not going to be having a good day no matter what tomorrow. So let's just take a look very quickly at what this hazardous weather outlook is here. And that's a pretty big area. So depending on the look, this is all dependent. And if you watched my live stream, Games and Storms Live, this past Tuesday, there were kind of like two camps we were talking about. I think it was the NAM and the Euro in one camp, and then the GFS and the Icon in another. And it was a more northerly track and a more southerly track. And that's still the case here, depending on the low pressure that is expected to pass. That is the big question, is which of those two paths will it take? So it's looking like here, we're going to see portions of central and eastern Connecticut before ending with only minor accumulations. The winds, though, strong northeast winds, which this is by definition a nor'easter, because we have winds coming from the northeast, 35 to 45 miles per hour, along the coast Saturday and Saturday evening. Oh, a Saturday morning high tide. Definitely got to keep that in mind. Now, this is something interesting. I haven't looked at spotter stuff pretty much throughout the whole pandemic. Spotter activation may be needed. Please safely report significant weather conditions while following local, state, and CDC guidelines specific to social distancing guidelines. That is number one priority, is to make sure you're wearing a mask when you're out in public and you are social distancing. So that's what the hazardous weather outlook was all about. So now let's take a look really at what's going on outside right now. So let's bring up some satellite and let's put this in motion. So here, a big chunk of the country right now really doesn't have much cloud. And even if I switch here to the nighttime microphysics, which is basically visible satellite at night, and we look around here, there's a good swath of the country that is under clear sky right now. And this is nice too, because look at this. You could see the fog coming over these rivers here. Very interesting. But there's a pretty big system here in the eastern half of the country along the east coast, and that's the nor'easter. So let me go back to the shortwave here. So with the infrared satellite, we can see the clouds here, and this is basically just showing temperature. The whiter the image, the colder it is. So this is very cold cloud, which means very high clouds. So that's what's coming through. And when we switch over to the radar, this is what we're seeing underneath those clouds. There's a lot of moisture in here. And we can kind of align that, the radar, with water vapor imagery. Let's do lower level here. You can see just how much that core is, where we're seeing most of the water vapor or the moisture in the atmosphere, right around there. And also this kind of ties into why most of the country here is under nice clear skies, because there's a lot of dry air around here, which is in the wake of this nor'easter. So now when we take a look at the surface analysis, what time was this from? This is 2252Z. So let's say 23Z. So this is about 6 p.m. Eastern time. And this is where we're seeing a couple of systems here. High in Canada, low, and a low. Now you can see here an occluded front, which means this system is on the later side of the kind of synoptic scale weather patterns, where we see from just a stationary front going into the cold front and the warm front, kind of like a wave. Once the wave is cresting, that means it's nearing the end of its life cycle. This occluded front here is kind of like the cresting of a wave and the crashing of the wave. So that's what we're seeing here. It's kind of like just past its peak, but that doesn't mean it's not going to be a bad system, because this is going to be pretty intense. So now let's take a look at some of these forecast models here on the good old tropicaltidbits.com. So this here, the GFS 6-hour average precipitation rate. This is not, I say, for simulated radar. This here is just showing the precipitation rate on an average over 6 hours. And this is where we're seeing it at first, kind of like we talked about on Tuesday, that little streak right there of the rain coming through. And then the system intensifies. Now, this is the GFS here. Now, this has the low kind of close, but not close enough to that 70-40 benchmark, where you do get a lot of cold air coming in, and that means a lot of snow for the New York City area. Not necessarily here. And when we take a look a little bit closer, let me just zoom in to the northeast. Between these two, we go from a lot of rain and very windy with these isobars. The closer those get together, that means the windier it is. But it is showing the wraparound, meaning with the counterclockwise rotation around a low pressure system in the northern hemisphere. We have northerly winds with this cold Canadian wind coming down, causing some snow. This is why in some areas in Connecticut, there's a winter weather advisory. Not anything really more significant than that. But you have a winter storm warning for areas more north into New England. This is pretty intense snow that we're going to be seeing there. So that's what the GFS is showing. Heavy rain. Most of it stays south New Jersey, Delmarva area, and then goes out to sea a little bit. But then it kind of pulls back inward for eastern Long Island, eastern Connecticut, Massachusetts there. And then it starts pulling inward again, going up into Maine. And then you kind of have a cold finish there once you get up into Maine. But going back to the New York City area, this is overnight. This is 1 a.m. on Sunday. These tightly packed isobars is going to be very windy. And we have basically north winds. Cold and strong winds is what we're going to be expecting there. So that's on the GFS. Let's take a look at the icon. Oh, and then one quick thing going back for the weekend. Sunday here is clearer, but still look how tight those isobars are. So it's going to be cold. It's going to be drier, but it's going to be cold and windy for Sunday. All right, so for the icon, let's follow the progression here. And it looks like it's very similar to the GFS. It has the bulk of the rain going through the Delmarva area, going into South New Jersey, then clipping eastern Long Island, the Twin Forks there, eastern Connecticut, Massachusetts, then going up into Maine. But to kind of see a little bit more in detail, let's zoom in. In here. Okay, so Jersey's going to get a lot of rain. And then there's the Twin Forks area. All right, it's coming up north. There's still bulk of that rain. Those isobars still tightly packed. And then it doesn't look like as much heavy snow, but still right there. It's right going to be on that freezing line. And even though this isn't exactly the freezing line, you can think of this line here, the 540 line. This is a thickness line. Usually the thickness of the atmosphere at 540 decameters is about 32 degrees Fahrenheit, or 0 Celsius, which is about the freezing point line. So we can kind of think of this as a good reference for where the freezing line is. And that's why you see here a lot of dark blue in that one area, because you have heavy rain right at the freezing point, meaning it could be heavy snow as well. Then that starts to make its way out, and it starts to unravel a little bit as it's making its way more north, but still, we are seeing very strong winds going into Sunday. Clearer, there may be some of these flurries coming off the Finger Lakes or the Great Lakes for just a little flurry lake effect snow that we could see for Sunday. But right around New York City, that's really going to be about it. Nothing much in terms of precipitation for Sunday, but strong winds. All right, so the icon model, we're going to go to the NAM here. That is out of order. All right, so on the NAM here, we're still seeing that little streak of rain. And this one, unlike the last two, near surface reflectivity, meaning this is radar. This is not average precipitation rate. This is simulated radar. All right, so let's take a look here. There is the bulk of that rain going through the Delmarva area, touching southern New Jersey, just not as far inland. Going into eastern Long Island, eastern Connecticut, eastern Massachusetts there. But then right there is that line that we'll take a closer look at in a second. But then this starts to go into Maine there. It unravels just a little bit, but still that pressure gradient is very strong, very windy. All right, so let's zoom in a little bit here into the northeast. And now let's take this frame by frame. There's your heavy rain going pretty much through Long Island, maybe even getting into a little bit of New York City there. Right there, that northwest corner of Connecticut, that's where that winter weather advisory is in place right now. But here, that really dark blue, that's heavy snow, which is why, again, going back to here, the winter storm warnings. Look at the shape of the counties with the winter storm warning. And then we're going to look back here. It's kind of following right along that. So that's where the National Weather Service forecasters are putting those warnings out, where it's looking like the heaviest of the snow and the wind. Well, everywhere's going to get the wind, but the heaviest of the snow will be. And then that still continues right along that line there. You can see the heavy rain, heavy snow really going through the entire, almost all of Maine, until it gets a little bit more out to sea just a slightly bit, but then it ends. It looks like almost the entire state in some sort of frozen precipitation. So this is going to be a pretty intense nor'easter. But the intense nor'easter is not really going to be for at least the New York City area. We are not getting the bulk of the heaviest precipitation. Again, it's going to be more South Jersey, Delmarva area, eastern Long Island, and then the snow is going to be more inland New England. All right, so now let's take a quick look here at the positive snow depth. So this is what the forecast model is thinking the snow will be. So this is ending 7 a.m. Monday. So with that, nothing really. Maybe we got slight bit in orange, Westchester, Putnam, Rockland, all right in there. Maybe a little bit again with possibly some lake effect. Some accumulation, not much. And if we look at the scale, that's right at the bottom of the scale there. But then going into that more inland New England, we're seeing here the green is going to be at least 12 inches. So some areas, there's an 8, look at that, 18. There's an 18 right there. So the GFS is showing up to 18 inches in that one part of New England, not New England, in Maine. So that's going to be pretty intense if that comes to fruition. So that's the GFS. Let's take a look at the icon. Let's go through. And this here, this little extra accumulation for Monday, that's probably some lingering lake effect. But when we take a look here, the more significant total, it's still targeting kind of that same area as the GFS, the icon here, but not as high. It is showing a little bit getting into the 12 plus with that little spot of green. So this really is going to be the target of the heaviest snow. And then let's take a look at the NAM here. Let's get that out through Monday at 12Z. There we go. So again, just little traces here, maybe some lake effect we could be seeing. There's nothing really too much in terms of the tri-state New York City area, except maybe some areas in the northern parts of the Hudson Valley, and then a little bit into Connecticut there. But the bulk of it is still going Connecticut through Massachusetts in that little kind of like streak area. And the highest, this is still showing, I see a 16 as the highest, but still in the green. So these are now 3 forecast models showing 12 plus inches of snow for New England. That is pretty intense. All right. So thank you all for watching. This is actually the first video I think this season I threw on my winter animation in the beginning with the snow. But we do have a nor'easter. This is by definition. Let me transition back here. This is by definition a nor'easter. We are going to be seeing some very strong winds. Again, we could be seeing 35 to 45 mile per hour gusts throughout the entire northeast area. But the heaviest rain is going to be southern New Jersey, Delmarva area, kind of going diagonal through eastern Long Island, then going into Connecticut, Massachusetts, all the way up to Maine. Now, in terms of rain, we could be seeing maybe 1/10 to 2/10 of an inch of rain in those areas out of this, maybe up to 1/4 inch of rain. But then the snow, that is where it's really going to be more of the inland New England area. The potential is there for 1 foot plus of snow. I am going to be following this really intensely just because that is fascinating if we are seeing that. I mean, it is December, but I don't remember seeing a nor'easter like this in December for quite a while in the past few years. So this is very interesting. I'm going to see if I can have any kind of content coming out tomorrow as well. So that wraps up this video. This weekend is going to be a bad day on Saturday with that nor'easter coming through. And then on Sunday, it's going to be drier, but still windy, and the cold comes in. So if you want to get more weather update videos and you want to see maybe tomorrow I'll have a video coming out, hit that subscribe button below and then the little bell icon right next to that so you get notified whenever I upload a video or I do go live. All right, that is a wrap. Thank you all for watching. Please stay safe out there. This is meteorologist Andrew Pinero. Have a great rest of your night, and I will see you all in the next video.